today we got our first shipment of plants in, and what we usually always get first are geraniums. We have unrooted geranium calloused cuttings, and they come packaged, and they're little packages, little ice packs to keep it nice and cool. And let's see what we have. These are our hot pinks. I'm going to open these up and show you what we have here. So what we get in are these little cuttings, these little plants. And so what we have to do with these, once we start planting, which I'm going to get started here very shortly, is we've got our 4.5 inch pots ready. And when we put these in, we only put them up to about right there, because this is the crown of the plant, and you cannot bury the crown under the dirt, otherwise it just dies. So you've just got that much to put in there. I mean, that's little. And you have to get those in there, make sure they're upright, and when then they'll go on the heated table. And actually, this little guy here, oh, I see him, has a little tiny root on the bottom of him. That's a good thing. So they go on the heated table with the mist system on, and the mister keeps kicking on every once in a while, and it keeps them moist on top, and it keeps the soil damp, and then it gets nice and warm in there, and that's what'll start to get them to root. In about 2 weeks, these will be rooted out pretty good. These will be pretty nice. So then that, once they get a nice, good, heavy root on them in a few weeks, then we'll end up shutting the heat mat off and letting them go from there. But for several weeks, they have to stay on that heat mat and get going. So this is our first plant. Let's see, how many did we end up getting in? 1,300, it looks like. 1,300 baby geraniums. And tomorrow, these will all be on the table, on the heated table. They'll be done, and they'll be ready to start doing their growing. So I just wanted to show you, we wanted to show you what we had going on here with our first batch coming in. And I'm going to start sticking some of these. So here in a little bit, I'll just kind of show you what they look like stuck and ready to go. Okay, so I have started working on these. And something I did before I started, when I started doing it, is I pressed all this down. And then I got a little handy dandy tool here. It's a broken radio antenna. Because what it does, if you just take it right there and you stick it right in the center, just make a little bit of a hole, it's just the perfect size for these little butts. And then you just kind of sit them in there. I put my finger around the part that I don't want to bury. And then that way when I stick them in there and pack, they're kind of right there. Push the dirt around. Kind of, 1, holds them in place, and 2, gives it what we call headroom. You got to have that room so when you're filling those pots with water, that they just stay. It fills. Because if you get these pots too full, you put water in it, it just runs off, and it hasn't any good to water it. So you give it a little bit of headroom, and that holds the water right there. And then there's little lips inside of some of these pots, so sometimes it's a little rough kind of getting those down in there, because you want all the little tags. We're kind of picky. We want all the little tags pushed in as far as they'll go, because if not, you catch them with hoses and stuff and you pull them back out. And you want them in front of the plant, because behind the plant you can't read the thing. Once the plant gets grown up and you go to sell it or whatever, then your customers can't read what it is because the plant's hiding it. I mean, you know, it doesn't take much smarts to figure that one out. But believe it or not, people actually don't think of that. So once we get the that tray done, we're ready for another tray. Actually, the most time consuming part actually is the tags. get a nice workout carrying these things. When these plants start to get bigger, I kid you not, these trays, when they're completely wet down, they'll sometimes weigh 30, 35, 40 pounds. I mean, it's crazy how heavy they really are. And you just kind of get used to carrying one in each hand and going down the aisles and hoping the tray doesn't break. I'm just pack them in. I could take a pot, and different size pot, and stick down in here. But what I don't like about doing that is you'll leave a lip right here around this edge. It'll be deep, and then you'll have this up here. So when you fill it, when you water it, then that dirt just goes right in on top of the crown of the plant. So if I do it by hand, I'm at least getting it flat all the way against the sides. The holes that you're making here don't have to be very deep because the little butts aren't very deep to begin with. They got little butts. So tray number 2. Once you get the hang of doing it, it doesn't take all that long, but of course, you know, we've been doing it for so long that you don't have to think as much about burying them. Some people use root tone on these. They'll powder their butts there with root tone to speed the process of rooting along. Back in the day, we did the same thing, but honestly, it does just fine without it. That way, you've not got the extra chemicals and whatnot. And off the first ones go to their nice warm spot. Another thing that we do is called a day book. And you can go back to from when Mark opened his very first greenhouses. They used to use index cards in a little file thing, and then did that for years and years and years. And then later on started also keeping track of what's called a day book. Now, I have a book that it's for baskets. I have a book for transplanting and that type of thing. So that way I can look back at any time. If I want to put it in the computer, I can put it in the computer. But basically what it is when we do a plant, we put the date down in the book. And so, for instance, like today, put the date down. And then right now I'm doing hot pink geraniums. So I'm going to put geraniums down. Hot pink. And then I make a note, it's a 4.5 inch pot. And then when I'm done, it's just basically going to have all the info on it. It'll say how many pots, and at any point in time, how many trays, I'm sorry. And then at any point in time, if we want to figure out how many pots we have, we just multiply it by 15. So everything that gets planted in here, Mark also has a book that's for seeds. And every time he does seed material, he'll write down how many things he did, so on and so forth. That way we can keep track of what germinated, what we actually planted, how much we've got in inventory, and if we had any losses and stuff like that. So we kind of old school it We just do this because at any point in time we can just go in, and that's what we do every year when we go to make our lists and stuff. Is so we just go in and look at our day books. So I'm going to proceed onward with my geraniums, and when I get a bunch of them done, I'll show you where they're at in their bench. Okay, so this is the hot pink geraniums. They're on their nice heated table, and they have their misters. We've got them all soaked in as I was planting, and Mark was doing all his furnace work and his other stuff. He carried all of them in for me and placed them on the table. It makes a huge difference when you don't have to carry and plant at the same time. So we ended up 14 trays of the hot pinks. And tomorrow morning I will come back out and finish everything up and get the rest of this. This whole table as of tomorrow morning will be completely full. I will probably get up early enough. I do get up pretty early with the pig, and I'll get up, bring out my coffee, and come out here and work and get it all knocked out. So in the midst of getting ready for the geraniums, we've come in and filled pots. I try to get all these are 4-inch pots here. These are the geranium pots I'm using from that I've already had filled. We've got about 1,650 pots on that stack right there. And those will all be gone within the next, well, that's not even enough to do the next 2 weeks worth of work. So this is just a drop in the hat. We've got our ferns looking pretty nice up here. Once we get them out into the greenhouse, they will just double in size. Mark's got the wood stove going for the evening. Makes it really nice in here. It takes the chill off. And he's been hanging our light up over the tag compartment. Rehanging it, I should say. Straightening it up. He also has more pots. He also has these lights. See the lights up underneath this bench? And we'll put the plastic over the bench just like we do everything else. But what's going to go here are non-stop begonias. They need the extra daylight. So they're sitting here next to the furnace, and we have it set up. It blows up underneath so that it never dries things completely out up underneath here. And it'll be a little bit warmer. And then we'll set these lights. We have to turn them on and off to give them the extra daylight hours. So, and for you that don't know what a non-stop begonia is, they're a great big flowering begonia that are great for solid shade and stuff on your front porches and whatever. Really nice. So, midnight here, he's got the place for the evening. He'll make sure everything's watered in and stays good. Right, midnight? Yep. So,